It feels like a tale as old as time. Tennessee gets a highly ranked prospect to commit to the class, and then said prospect drops in the rankings that ensue. The movement, the updates, and the On300, that's coming up next right here on a Tuesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I appreciate you being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you would so please. And, of course, download these episodes wherever you get your show. Mailbag question for you everydayers. Got a couple of good ones coming up in segment number 3. Segment 2, Bill Connelly. Let's get the pocket protectors and glasses out. I love these segments. Returning production, percentage-wise, 4 teams in FBS. We'll rank them in the SEC, tell you where Tennessee stacks up offensively, Tennessee stacks up defensively in terms of returning production, some pocket protector and geek talk in segment 2, but it's an important thing that's very relevant and one of my favorite segments, Bill Connelly stuff over at ESPN segment 2. But segment number 1, Tennessee commits and targets, key targets in the updated On300 over there at the On3 recruiting services. Well, you guys know me. I host here at Locked On Vols. If you're new to the show, appreciate you being here. But if you don't know as well, I work for VolQuest.com, which is the Tennessee affiliate of the On3 network. My work lies in recruiting coverage. I don't have a big of a hand in the said recruiting coverage anymore like I used to a couple years ago because I've transitioned more into baseball coverage with Tony Vitello and the monster that he's built, and of course just regular football team coverage and more of the video and podcasting side. But I still help out with recruiting coverage. In fact, I put a rankings list, a rankings update story up at VolQuest.com yesterday. But my point is, my day job is in the recruiting industry. My site that I work for lives and breathes on Tennessee recruiting, on college football recruiting. It is a massive deal. The Journal's Quarters, one of the largest messaging board platforms in all of America, regardless of 247, Rivals, On3, whatever. It's one of the biggest online communities in the country. It lives and breathes Tennessee football recruiting. So football recruiting is a massive, massive part of my professional life. Very, very important. So when the updated On300 recruiting rankings come out, I thought it'd be very important to talk about that, obviously, and how it conveys to, these future players that are expected to get on Rocky Top. And it's funny, it's kind of an ongoing joke with Tennessee football fans, and sometimes it feels like there's some truth to it. Most of the time, there's not. But it's like, team gets big-time prospect to commit to your class. A couple months later, when said publication, whether it be, again, On3, 247, Rivals, whatever, ESPN's not in this conversation, they sit at the little boys table, it's like said prospect tumbles down the rankings because said prospect is committed to the Vols. Okay, that's not true, but it feels that way, right? And here's a classic example. The updated On300 rankings. You have Faizon Brandon was once upon a time, I believe, the number 6 overall player in the class per On3. I think he moved down somewhere around the 20s, the 20s in the last rankings. But nonetheless, he is now at number 34 by On3. 34, which, mind you, if any recruiting service is ranking you as the 34th best player in the country, it's not bad. It's not bad whatsoever. Again, it's 247. Now, they haven't redone their rankings here lately, but Faizon Brandon still was considered the number 1 prospect in the cycle by 247. Rivals has him up there as well. So if you accumulate all that together, and that's what's called the On3 industry rankings, where it weights what On3 has you ranked, 247 has you ranked the same, Rivals down a little bit, and of course ESPN down there at like 5 or 10%. Faizon Brandon is still considered the On3 industry ranking number 6 prospect in the country, which is huge. But Faizon Brandon dropped specifically in the On3 rankings to number 34. And I thought it was really, really interesting because that's kind of a steep drop. And of course, he's the quarterback, still ranked as the number 3 overall quarterback in the cycle, which is noteworthy because if you remember that class of 23 quarterbacks with Nico and Arch and all them, you had like 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. So not as much of a top-heavy quarterback class this year. And Faizon Brandon comes in there ranked number 3 in terms of quarterbacks, number 6 in the industry rankings, but number 34 in the On3 ranking specifically. I don't always take what you get behind a paywall again because that's my line of work, but this is good promotion for On3. This is good promotion for VolQuest.com. Charles Power, he's the director of rankings and recruiting and scouting for On3, who has a big part, plays a big hand in ranking these guys. He doesn't do every single one, but he's the director of it. He came onto the Journal's quarters and he dropped a little note on Faizon Brandon because obviously a lot of people are like, hey, what's going on here? What's up? And I wanted to take what he said. Again, in my line of work, we don't like people to take things from the message board and put it on social media for free, but hey, I work for the site and I think this is great publicity for both Charles and for VolQuest and On3 in general. So you want more notes like this? Go be a part of VolQuest. But here's the quote I'm going to drop here today as a teaser. This is from Charles Power. Hey guys, wanted to drop in and explain where we're at with Faizon Brandon. Honestly, not a ton has changed with how he stacks up within the quarterback group of the class overall since October. Brandon had a very efficient year with Grimsley, winning the state title, so I completely understand the questions. He goes on to say, after watching all of his games and past attempts from the season, we still like his physical skill set. What he showed as a distributor while taking care of the football is a positive. Despite the team's success and efficiency when targeting the short area of the field, we want to see more of the high-level individual plays that we typically see from a five-star quarterback. Even then, Faizon is still QB3 and ahead of the other quarterbacks who had equally or more productive seasons. The QB cycle nationally doesn't appear to be as loaded as the top in 2025, so things are still relatively open at this early juncture. We still like his talent and look forward to seeing him in action this offseason, and then, of course, tracking his progress as a senior, end quote. That's Charles Power, Director of Scouting and Recruiting over at On3, what he had to say about Faizon Brandon over on the General's quarters at VolQuest.com. So, a lot of people can pick that apart a little bit, and some people are saying, oh, so you want him to be more selfish with the football and make more plays, so team success isn't the big of the deal. Guys, it's just rankings, and they change a lot throughout the year. And at the end of the day, you're only as good as what you're willing to be developed when you get on campus. And that's kind of where I'm at on that. And I understand that rankings are a big part of my professional career because of where I work. They do a great job. It's a thankless job. It's an impossible job, but that's kind of what you do. End of the day, Faizon Brandon is still one of the best players in this cycle. But he did drop down to number 34 according to On3. Thought that was interesting. So Faizon Brandon drops couple of spots down to 34. Tyreek drops 49 spots down to 122 nationally, okay? And then, but Tyron Evans jumped, and he wasn't even ranked. He wasn't even a part of the On300. He jumps up to prospect number 219. So Tennessee did get a big boost in wide receiver Tyron Evans, despite Tyreek dropping a little bit and Faizon Brandon dropping a little bit. But Tennessee has 3 commits right now of the 7. 3 commits who are in the On300 rankings, the top 300. Here are some top Tennessee targets that the Volunteers are very much in on that are well up that board. Rodney Dunham. I personally went to Circle Park and watched him play this fall before Tennessee and NC State and Charlotte. Dude is James Pierce. Built very similar, except he's got a little bit more to his frame right now at his stage in his career compared to Pierce. Very explosive. Man, he jumped up 12 spots to number 7 nationally. Rodney Dunham, 7 nationally, On3 5-star, industry ranking 5-star. Scouts take on Rodney Dunham. Rodney Dunham has the look of a natural pass rusher. At around 6'4", 215 pounds plus length, he has a developmental frame along with excellent get-off and bend around the edge. Dunham is as coordinated an athlete and shows encouraging flashes of pass rush skill. He makes impressive plays in pursuit. Dunham doesn't turn 17 years old until July, so he is younger for the cycle and has room to continue to develop from a size and strength perspective. That is from Charles Power again, On3 Director of Scouting and Ranking. So Rodney Dunham comes in there at number 7 overall. He's got an official visit scheduled with Tennessee. He'll be back this spring. Wide receiver Tristen, who also will be back this spring, has an official visit set up, is number 8 overall, according to the updated On300 rankings. An industry ranking 5-star. Quote, this is from another national scout for On3. Quote, Tristen Keys is the total package. He has that rare combination of fluidity and twitch that every coach is searching for at the wide receiver position. He does such a great job of striking his hips at the top of his routes, especially at 6'3", and exploding out. Plus, he has the foot speed and body control to throttle up and down during the routes, which keeps defenders on their heels. His pacing and timing is so advanced for someone his age. He has such natural ball skills. He's going to walk in and compete for a starting job early on in his career. End quote. Tristen Keys at number 8 overall. Rodney Dunham at number 7 overall. Some other really highly ranked prospect that Tennessee is about to have on campus for OVs this summer, spring visits for practice and more. Savion Hyder, running back, number 11 overall. Tyler Atkinson, linebacker, number 15 overall. Joel Wyatt, athlete, number 29 overall. So those were some of the highlights. Again, there's plenty of other Tennessee targets in the On300, but those are some of those top 30 prospects, and of course, Tennessee commits currently inside the On300. We can be mad about Faizon Brandon dropping a little bit, and that's fair, but I think it is important to point out that post these rankings on 300, the new updated on 300, Tennessee went from number 10 to number 9 nationally in the class, and from number 7 in the SEC to number 5. So your quarterback drops a little bit, but you get a big boost. Again, Tyron Evans, a big boost, helping Tennessee's class overall right now actually move up in the rankings. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind moving forward. Okay, so we're talking recruiting rankings here. Let's talk about returning production for the Tennessee Volunteers. What's that look like, and how does it stack up against the rest of college football? And most importantly, the Southeastern Conference. Pocket protectors and glasses coming up next with Bill Connelly of ESPN right here on Locked On Vols. March basketball is here. There's no better place to get it, or no better way to get in on all the action than over at PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, it's easy, it keeps every game exciting. I love how I can make my picks in less than 60 seconds and stay engaged all game long. It's super quick and easy, fast payouts. When I win, my money hits the account in as little as 15 minutes, so no waiting around. Plus, Taco Tuesday deals. PrizePicks even offers weekly promos like Taco Tuesday, where you get discounted player projections for even more value. That's not bad right there. Download the app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 in lineup. That is promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 in lineup. PrizePicks, it is where you can run your game. It's your Tuesday Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for being here and making this a part of your morning routine, your first watch, your first listen. Couldn't do it without you every dayers. 5 days a week, all year round, talking Tennessee football. And today we are going to one of my favorite segments that he does, stories that he does each and every offseason, does it a couple different times. And there's different areas to the SP Plus rankings. And this third of the SP Plus rankings takes into account returning production. Bill Connelly over at ESPN. He's ranking all the returning production for FBS football programs, up to 136, by the way. 2 more additions here this offseason. 136. How about that? Division I FBS programs. So where does Tennessee rank in terms of returning production? Well, you got to go all the way down to number 58. Number 58 out of 136. 58 out of 136. Tennessee has 58% of its roster returning production. 49% on the offensive side of the football, which ranks 87th in the country, and 67% on the defensive side of the football, which ranks 22nd. This kind of backs up my argument I've been saying all offseason long that I feel like the defense is just going to pick up right where it left off because you are returning so many players, so much production. Sure, James Pierce is gone. Sure, Will Brooks is gone. Keenan Peely played a couple of games. I know you're Omari Thomas, Omar Normal. I know you're missing some guys who are good, and I'm not trying to discredit that, but you're bringing back so many other guys who are part of the rotation and played a significant portion of the snaps. And there's some production there as well. And so that's why this kind of backs up my thought process there. 67% of your returning production is here for Tennessee. That ranks 22nd in the country, but 49% on offense ranks 87. That doesn't surprise me at all, because why? Well, Tennessee's replacing 4 starting offensive linemen. Tennessee is replacing an All-American and SEC Player of the Year at tailback in Dylan Sampson. Tennessee is replacing all of its wide receivers, right? Like Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton going to the NFL draft, Squirrel White going to the transfer portal, other guys like Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb going to the transfer portal. I mean, Tennessee is replacing pretty much all of its wide receivers except Mike Matthews, who barely played last year, and Chris Brazzell, who in year 1 via the transfer portal didn't live up to hype. Okay, didn't live up to hype. So the offensive one does not surprise me whatsoever. So what does all this mean, essentially, right? This is from Bill Connelly's article here on returning production. Quote, over the past 3 years, we've seen 23 of 300, and this is where it gets really, really nerdy, so push up them glasses on the bridge of your nose here and make sure your pocket protector's right here. We're going to get nerdy here, all right? Hang with me, okay? Hang with me. Quote, over the past 3 years, we've seen 23 of 398 total FBS teams, 5.8%, returning at least 78% of their production in a given season, meaning it's few and far between. Of the 136 team FBS, that's equivalent to about 7.9 teams per year. But right now, only 2 teams pass that bar, and that's Clemson and Arizona State, meaning Clemson and Arizona State are set to return so much of its team's production from a year ago. If you lower the bar to 70%, that ropes in 6 more teams from 2025, including Illinois, Kennesaw State, Rutgers, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and Vanderbilt. Over the past 3 years, this is my favorite stat. It's like it works 100% of the time, 67% of the time, or whatever from Anchorman. Over the past 3 years, teams at 70% returning production or higher have improved 70% of the time, which says good things for 5 or 6 of the 8 teams above. So, point blank, not a whole lot of teams are returning at least 70% of the production. But a couple of teams at the top do stand out. 2 college football teams in Clemson and Arizona State. So I think that is notable. A couple of teams here from the Southeastern Conference, Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. Okay, let's be mindful of that. Let's go to the other end of the realm. Okay, the other end. Quote, now let's flip to the other end of the spectrum. From 2022 to 2024, 15% of teams returned less than 50% of production, equivalent to about 21 teams from 136 team FBS. But right now, okay, 46 teams are under 50%. He's seeing a significant drop-off in returning production. Why? Well, transfer portal 1. 2, we're cycling out of the COVID seniors. So it spiked in 2021 because you had all these guys saying, oh, well, yeah, I'll stay back and play another year. Sure, I'll stay back and play another year. We're cycling out of that now. Okay, so now you're seeing a significant portion of guys who are just out of eligibility, and it's going down, right? And so I'm going to read this over for you again, okay? 15% from 2022 to 2024, 15% of teams return less than 50% of production, equivalent to about 21 teams from a 136-team FBS. But right now, 46 teams, so you're doubling that, more than doubling that. 46 teams are under 50%. If we look solely at the teams returning less than 40%, there are 19 in 2025, 18 at the G5 level. Regression comes at 75% on those average, 50% fall by 10 points of SP+. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Group of fives don't have a chance, right? Because of your good players, they're going to get poached. It's like Sanford in baseball this past weekend, right? They were a game shot making an NCAA regional appearance. 4 of their players from that team got poached to Power 4 rosters. And so it's tough to build anything at the group of 5 level right now. So I think all that's kind of interesting right now. More than ever right now, you're seeing less and less production returning to teams on average because of the COVID year cycling out and because of the transfer portal means players can leave your roster. Again, Tennessee ranks number 58 nationally in returning production per Bill Connelly at ESPN. 58% of its roster of returning production is on its roster. Offensively, 49%, that's ranked 87th. Defensively, 67%, which ranks 22nd. Here's interesting, okay, if we want to look at SEC-only teams, let's give this a whirl right here. Texas A&M is at the top. Okay, it ranks 6th overall, 19th on offense, 12th on defense. Vanderbilt's number 2, 8th overall, 28th on offense, 10th on defense. Oklahoma, 10th overall, 6th on offense, 46th on defense. Florida, 18th overall, 36th on offense, 25 on defense. Auburn, 22nd overall, 21st on offense, 48th on defense. Those are kind of the top 5 that you're seeing in a lot of these conversations in terms of who should improve the most. And if you continue to go down and read this article over at ESPN.com and what these numbers mean for your team, most likely to improve: Texas A&M number 1, Florida number 2, Clemson number 3, Boise State number 4, Illinois number 5, Oklahoma number 6, Auburn number 7, Arizona State number 8, Baylor number 9. What do those teams have in common? You look over here if you're watching on ESPN, I said Texas A&M, I said Vanderbilt, I said Oklahoma, I said Florida, and I said Auburn. They're all in this realm of teams likely to improve in 2025. Well, we know that Florida's going to improve, at least I think it will. I think that Auburn's going to improve, but, I don't think it's going to be a world beater. Oklahoma's got to improve, right? If you're just healthy and you get better quarterback play. Vanderbilt, are you going to win more than 8 games? I don't know, but, we'll see. But, all those teams that I mentioned are in that realm of they should be better because they're returning a lot of production. But nonetheless, of the SEC teams, okay, and if you're watching here on YouTube, I'll flash it back up here again. Tennessee coming in number 11 of 16 SEC teams with 58% of its roster returning in terms of production. 58% of its production returning to its roster. 87th offensively, 22nd defensively. That ranks 11th out of 16 teams in the Southeastern Conference. And again, it should be no shocker, right? You're losing 4 offensive linemen, a running back, all your receivers, a tight end. You're losing your best pass rusher. You're losing a safety that had 4 interceptions for you. And you're technically losing your starting middle linebacker. Not the end of the world, but it is kind of expected when you see that number being painted right there, and you see that picture being painted right there. What does all this mean? Well, Tennessee's not one of the worst teams in this regard, certainly not one of the best teams in this regard. It's returning some guys who have played, but some other guys are going to have to step up. But I'll continue to say, as I've said all offseason, sure, we need to figure out wide receiver. We need to figure out the offensive line, but no matter what, quarterback, Nico Iamaleava has got to take a significant step this offseason. If he does, Tennessee's going to be just fine. And Tennessee will be back in the college football playoff. If he doesn't, then you're going to see some seasons like in 2023, in my opinion. So that is what's to come. I love looking at the SP Plus rankings. That's only a third of it. A third of it in terms of returning production. There's 2 other parts of the official SP Plus rankings that he talks about each and every year. Who returns the majority of last year's production? Who has done the best job of importing production from other team? Who is starting from scratch? A lot of different factors that go into the SP Plus rankings. And today we discuss the returning production. All right, that was fun for me. Hopefully I didn't lose anybody. Again, with respect, glasses, pocket protectors. That's what I love to call these segments with Bill Connelly over at ESPN. But I had a blast talking about it and hope it made sense to you. Let's get into some mailbag questions, shall we, on the other side as we conclude this edition of Locked On Vols. What is my favorite Harry Potter movie? Yeah, I know you tuned in to know just what that was, okay? I'm going to tell you that and plus a whole lot more as we get into the mailbag portion of the show coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. Everydayers, this is the part of the show for you answering your questions every Tuesday. We call it the Mailbag Show, Twitter Tuesday, whatever you want to call it. We will start with... I didn't put the name down here, and I apologize, but I believe I got this one from YouTube. Prediction: who gets drafted higher in their respective draft class? Nico Iamaleava or James Pierce? Kind of funny right now. James Pierce's stock, it feels like it's kind of sliding, but hey, we're just getting in the combine. Pro days are around the corner. Okay, we've got a lot more of this pre-draft process to go up, but James Pierce is still going to be a first-round draft pick. He's not going to be number 1 overall, but he's going to be a first-round draft pick. So is James Pierce going to be drafted in the mid-teens, in the 20s? We'll see. It depends on who you ask right now. But it's interesting because it's kind of like you know what you're getting in James Pierce first-rounder. Nico, if he lives up to 3/4 of the potential that he has, he's going to be a first-round draft pick next year too. And because he's a quarterback, will that mean he's towards the beginning of the first round? Because again, quarterbacks draft desperate teams got to have quarterbacks. I've seen it from James Pierce right now, okay? Nico's had flashes. Nico's certainly not been as bad as everybody wants to make him out to be. Nico's got a lot of potential and a lot of talent, but I have seen first-round play from James Pierce. So for right now, I'll say James Pierce because I think he gets drafted somewhere in the mid-teens, okay? But ask me this again. Opting out here. Ask me this again in a couple months. It really all depends on what Nico does this year. I think the sky's the limit for Nico. But I'll go James Pierce right now because I feel weird about calling a shot for a top 10 pick because that's just kind of difficult to do. Let's go to Ashby back on Twitter. Glad to have you back, man. Are we contenders or pretenders? I personally have no idea what to think about this team. Like you said, we have an insanely low floor, an insanely high ceiling, and wouldn't be surprised if we lose in the Sweet 16 or make it to the Final Four. In your opinion, which is most likely between the two? I personally do not have a clue and wanted to get your thoughts. Yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee is a contender for sure, right? Just because you're a contender doesn't mean you're going to win the whole daggum thing. I certainly don't think Tennessee's a pretender. Like everybody wants to. I mean, Josh Ward again. I thought it was hilarious, and we'll talk to him on tomorrow's show. But I gave him some grief after we recorded last week's segment because he kind of went off on the Chaz Lanier thing, right? And I'm like, man, you feel strongly about Chaz Lanier, and he's like, I just don't. I mean, he literally said, I think it's insane some of the messages I've been getting about Chaz Lanier, and I cut it up, made it a reel. And I circled back around on Saturday because I said, give Josh Ward his flowers, right? Because Chaz Lanier was the reason Tennessee won that game. Like, sure, Chaz Lanier is not Dalton Knecht, and it's unfair to think that he is. But Chaz Lanier has been 100% a good pickup for Tennessee. 100% success. Check. He's about to make like the fifth most. He's already passing Dalton Knecht for the most three-pointers made in a single season, right? And you still got 4 regular season games left, and you got the SEC tournament, the NCAA tournament. Like you got a guy like Chaz. You got a guy like Zakai Ziegler. Defensively, Tennessee is elite. Now, it hasn't looked like it at times, but stats don't lie. You are an elite defense. Ken Baum had you as the number 1 defense. You have the second most quad 1 wins this season. So 100% Tennessee is a contender. Doesn't mean you're going to win the whole thing because it takes one bad night. I got in one little fight. My mom got scared. It takes one bad night when you can't defend a 3-point shot like at Kentucky. It takes one bad night when you literally can't find the bottom of the net like you couldn't against Auburn. It just takes one bad night. But hopefully, Tennessee doesn't have that, and Tennessee can go all the way. To answer your question, I hope I helped you out here instead of just rambling on and going into Fresh Prince of Bel-Air intro song. I would say contenders for sure. Contenders for sure. Taylor says, with the roster staying the same, what is the biggest factor to the football team winning a national championship next season, in your opinion? Yeah, we talk about this a lot, and we mentioned this in the previous segment. I've got questions about wide receiver. I've got questions about running back. Absolutely. Can Tennessee's defense show up in big games? But nothing is as big as Nico taking a step. I use this example all the time. Eric Ainge, his junior year, he had Robert Meacham, Jason Swain, Smith. He had all these toys to play with, right? And then his senior year, he had Lucas Taylor. Statistically, Eric Ainge's best year was his senior year, through 35 touchdowns. I mean, it's not like the cupboard's bare. Mike Matthews got a lot of talent. Chris Briles is very talented, just got to put it together. I think Nico has got to take a step, a big step. And if Tennessee does that, then 100% that is the difference in winning a national championship, making the college football playoffs, or going 8-4. So Nico is still the biggest factor for Tennessee in winning a national championship. Okay, Braden's got a couple here. Do you ever find yourself irritated with the amount of screens we run in football? I understand it's part of the offense, but I feel like it is ineffective 75% of the time. It's to set up plays to come, okay? They run those screens to draw those corners in, to get those linebackers creeping out, to draw those safeties up a few steps, and then they throw over the top. It worked a lot better in 21 and 22 because you had more shots down the field. The last 2 years, you haven't seen as much. But that's the point of these screens. And at points in time, it's an extension of your run game when you're not getting the traditional run game going the way you need to. Screens are always going to be part of the offense, like you said. Is it irritating sometimes? Sure. But when you pop one over the top, it makes it all worth it because that is one of the big reasons why they do it. What is your favorite Harry Potter film? My favorite question of the mailbag. So we're talking movies and we're talking books. The best book, okay, is probably 5. Order of the Phoenix. My favorite movie is probably Half-Blood Prince because, man, it's just, I mean, that's when stuff got real, right? Like, wow. I'm dorking out here. Book 3 and movie 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, is fantastic. I'm going to go read Harry Potter books again. Fantastic. Love it. Love that third iteration of the series. So I think best movie is, or best movies 5, best book is 6, but number 3 is right in that conversation as well. I love all that. So, all right, talking about pocket protectors and glasses on the bridge of your nose. There we go. That was me. Allow me to nerd out over Harry Potter. Braden's still here. I personally hope the spring game stays purely for the fan experience. I understand the coaches don't get much out of it. Can get more from a close practice, but there's still something special about it. One of my favorite memories growing up is walking out into the open area, seeing the Power T painted on the field for the first time. It was surreal as a kid. I want that for the next generation of Vol fans who might not get to go to games regularly. I don't disagree with that. I can't really dispute that. I can't really add anything to that. The spring game is easier to get to convenience-wise because it's usually free, right? I mean, I think it was like $5 one year or whatever, but it's usually free. It's low costing, right? And so it's easier to get to. And so the pageantry, I mean, I'm with you, man. I wish they still did the fan day experience and all that. And then finally, I'm in the same boat as you, wanting a home-and-home with USC. I always had an infatuation with the 2005 team. It would be a really cool matchup and a dream uniform game. Yeah, it would. USC Trojans, 100% one of the best uniforms in all the sport. A couple more here. Vol boy, are we seeing a drop-off from last year's baseball team to this year's team's laughing face? Nope, not so far, man. You know as well as anybody, that team is incredible so far. Now, they haven't faced adversity. They might face adversity. They faced a little bit of adversity last weekend. They'll get challenged this weekend in the Astros Foundation Classic, so I'm looking forward to that, but so far, not at all. Jared said, after these past 2-weekend series, heading into the next, which offensive and which defensive lineup do you like best? Also, should we just go ahead and call ourselves the best pitching staff in the country? Love what I've seen so far. Adding AJ, Loy, Coons should only help. Yeah, I'm going to hold off on the best pitching staff in America simply because we still need to see these roles, right? So, most talented pitching staff, for sure. Who's doing what roles? In my mind, I've got it all made up, right? But you don't play baseball games in my mind. You play it on the field, right? So what is, when AJ comes back, where will they position him? Where will they allow him to build up? Long-term, is he Sunday? Snead, is he piggybacking him to begin with? I don't know. I'll say no on pitching staff right now simply because I just got to continue to see more of it. Best defensive lineup would be, in my opinion, best defensive lineup. Ariel at short, Dean at third, Gavin Keelan at second. There's not a really great defensive first baseman. I guess Fisher at first, Reese in right, Hunter in center, Abernathy in left, Cannon Peoples behind the plate. Best offensive lineup, Fisher in there somewhere. Alberto Ozuna, if he's eligible, he's your DH. Manny Marin at third. Hunter, Reese, Gavin Keelan, of course. There's just so many guys. I want to say Cannon Peoples, he's hitting the ball fine, but Stone Wallace needs to be in there. Oh man, it's too many guys to work with right now. It's not fair. It's simply not fair. Last couple ones here. Blake says, what are all these alleged character issues with the James Pierce? I don't know. I mean, he just didn't like talking to the media, right? I mean, I'm not going to act like he was a choir boy, but a lot of football players aren't choir boys. He didn't get into big trouble, and so I don't think that you can sit here and say that he's got a lot of character issues, but I have seen those reports, and I think a lot of it is he just doesn't talk to the media an awful lot of times. And finally, I didn't get the name, and I apologize. Someone wants to know what I think about Josh Pate's take that Tennessee having a workable 2025 schedule. 100%. Just like in 2024. Tennessee was blessed with, it's not an easy schedule, but you get Mississippi State, you get Arkansas, which you should beat, right? You get Kentucky, which is a game that you always win. Oklahoma was down last year. You got to weather the storm this year. You got to go on the road this year to Florida and Alabama, which is huge. You do get Georgia at home. It's very much a workable schedule, and it's kind of spaced out a little bit to where there's not a huge gauntlet in the middle of it like we've seen in years past. All right, couple minutes past due. Apologies there. As always, so much fun. Thank you so much for sending in those questions right here to a Tuesday Locked On Vols. We'll do it again next Tuesday. We'll take your questions, mailbag. Got a lot coming up this week. Josh Ward mailbag coming up, or Josh Ward Wednesday coming up tomorrow's show. We'll continue to get you set for Tennessee hoops late on a Wednesday night and everything else happening in the world of Tennessee football. Appreciate you guys as always. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. This is the Tennessee Football Podcast for them. Weekday mornings, wherever you get your podcast, we're going to be right here. This is Locked On Vols.